With the current political situation in Macedonia, can we see a delay in European integration?
Of course, having an effective government, an effective prime minister as soon as possible is important, who can negotiate and who can also ensure that EU member states are putting pressure or are communicating to Bulgaria very clearly that this is an unacceptable decision. I think that's very important. So having an effective government and an effective prime minister is certainly in the interest of North Macedonia at the moment.
You were the first from the international community to comment on Prime Minister Zoran Zaev's decision to resign after the defeat in the local elections. What is your opinion on that decision, and what do you think is the reason behind it?
The reason is, as far as I understand, and I mean, of course, it's my understanding is that he's trying to send a message to the European Union, to Brussels in particular, and the member states, that that the defeat or the loss of his coalition parties has a lot to do with the blockage which North Macedonia has been facing repeatedly over joining the European Union or starting accession talks. So the message, I take it from him, is primarily directed at the European Union to say, listen, this is the mess you are leaving behind by having countries like Bulgaria blocking our process, even when everybody agrees that it's merit-based and justified that we should start. And I take it as a message as such. And I think that is certainly a relevant and important message. Is resignation not a bit overreacting? I don't know. I mean, if it helps the message, it would be a good outcome. But of course, we'll have to see if it really does.
The Western Balkans in the past period has been filled with crisis, blockades of the institutions of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We've seen violence in Montenegro and Kosovo. Non-papers have emerged with possible border changes. Is there room for concern for the stability in the whole region?
I think there is a reason for concern. I'm not belonging to people who are worrying about war, as some people in Bosnia are, and which is understandable considering the trauma of recent past. But I think trouble is certainly occurring in the region. And I would say it's got a lot to do with the fact that the region has lost its compass, which is European integration. It's not working as a glue to resolve the issues and to have a motivation to deal with the open questions. Serbia and Kosovo cannot find a solution to their mutual differences. Serbia cannot recognize Kosovo at the moment. And it's not only, but it's to a large degree responsible that the European integration is not as promising as it used to be 10 years ago. And then we have, of course, politicians who are becoming more anti-European, like Serbian President Vučić or a Serbian member of the Bosnian presidency, Milorad Dodik. And they are seeing an opportunity to behave in an anti-EU, anti-European way, to create trouble with neighbors and open disputes. And this is something which I don't want to blame the European Union. Domestic leaders are to blame for it, but the EU is making it easier for them to find an excuse and to engage in these kind of behavior.
For Macedonia, the dispute with Bulgaria still remains the main problem. Do you see any hope for a quick solution here?
I mean, it depends a lot on the stability of a government to be formed in Bulgaria after the elections. I believe without a stable government, it will be very difficult because it seems like the president is unable or unwilling to take the initiative on this matter to resolve it. Of course, so I think having a government which is stable will help. It will not resolve it by itself, but it will have an address, somebody who has political responsibility and also doesn't have to worry about elections in a few months. Although I think everything we've seen from elections over the last year in Bulgaria is that voters in Bulgaria care about lots of things, but they don't care all that much about the issues with North Macedonia. This is not their main concern. They're not voting for parties because they are taking a nationalist line. So we often find that nationalists do their nationalist thing, not because they are popular, but because it allows them to talk about something they think they're very good about. But in that sense, it will depend on the stability of the government in North Macedonia, in Bulgaria, and it will depend also on whether we have a German government. That all depends on Germany. The US matters as well, but having a good, stable German government, which can also be very clear in the European Union, both supporting North Macedonia, but also communicating to their friends in Bulgaria that this has to stop, will help. And currently in Germany, we have a caretaker government, which has a very weak mandate. So I would expect that having both a government in Bulgaria and a government in Germany would not resolve it, there's no guarantee, but make it a lot easier to resolve than the current status.
You've mentioned the United States. We've seen some serious efforts from them to resolve the issue. Can we expect some pressure to Bulgaria from the United States?
I think the US will and has been very clear on this issue, and I think there will be pressure from the United States. It will work best if it's concerted, if the key EU member states, Germany, France, and the US together send a clear message to Bulgaria. But it's not just about a message, it's also making the price of Bulgarian position more expensive by not just talking diplomatically and saying that they don't agree with it. I think they have all said it very clearly, including President Macron, who used to be the biggest skeptic, but who said very clearly that he believes that accession talks should begin with North Macedonia and Albania. So it's about also raising the price of Bulgarian intransigence, and that is something which, of course, the EU can do on one side, or EU member states can do, but also the US can do. And I think I would expect that they will continue to do that. But a lot of it hinges on effective, good communication of the Macedonian side on this issue, and then hopefully a German government which will also pull in the same direction. So a couple of things have to align, and then one can hope for the pressure to be high enough that Bulgaria might realize and find a way out also for the Bulgarian side from this demand. Because of course, while the demands are outrageous and I don't believe acceptable, no government is going to back down easily if they feel like they're losing face. And this is, I guess, going to be the big challenge.
Professor Bibber, thank you for this interview.
Thank you.